At 6, a global deal to tackle climate change is agreed at last. It calls on all countries to move away from fossil fuels. Is it enough? After days of frantic negotiations, a new deal has been agreed at the UN Climate Summit in Dubai. For the first time, the deal at COP28 calls on all countries to move away from using fossil fuels, but it does stop short of asking them to completely phase them out. The deal says this is crucial if humanity is to limit temperature rises to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. But island nations, which are hardest hit by climate change, are not happy. They say their way of life is being threatened because there's not enough emphasis on cutting emissions in the short term. So what will this climate deal actually achieve? How much difference will it make? Our analysis editor, Ros Atkins, has been finding out.
The idea of an annual global climate summit was first established in Rio in 1992. It was there that countries agreed on the ambition of stabilising emissions. 5 years later in Kyoto, the first targets to cut emissions were set, though the US opted out. Then, in Copenhagen in 2009, hopes were high of a new deal. The talks ended in failure and frustration. And afterwards, the UN's Ban Ki-moon noted it will take more than this to tackle climate change. There was a lot more in Paris in 2015.
L'accord de Paris pour le climat est accepté.
There was a new common goal for all countries to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees above pre-industrial levels, and ideally 1.5.
We came together around the strong agreement the world needed.
The Paris Agreement improved reporting of emissions. It also drove some shifts in climate policy. Further progress was made at the Glasgow summit in 2021, though some were disappointed the words weren't stronger. And by 2022, the UN Secretary-General said, unless countries dramatically scale up their efforts to counter the climate crisis, the world faces a global catastrophe. And while there is often a gap between commitments at these summits and the actions that follow, these gatherings do bring a regular global focus on climate, and sometimes that can shift the global approach. At this COP in Dubai, countries have, for the first time, agreed to transition away from fossil fuels. This is new. But in the end, it's not words that impact the climate, it's actions and the money to fund them. And you may be wondering what impact all the past climate summits have had. Well, emissions were going up when the world met in Rio in 1992. They're still going up now, albeit more slowly because of global action that's been taken. Which is why COP28's real significance will be decided by what follows this latest deal.